Video on today.
Well, came in here for a visit today. As you guys know, Pfennig's recently took on the Deutz product line through us. So we were coming in, going through some features and benefits on the tractors, a little bit of our internal systems overviews to kind of get them up to speed on that.
Awesome. Well, we're excited about the Deutz, and we've had pretty good feedback from guys here lately on the Deutz, and it's been great. So, but before we jump into the tractors, Josh, let's talk about your background and who the heck is Josh Wells for those listening.
Well, kind of started. I'm an Ohio State alumni, so I'm sitting in good company in this room.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
But I spent my entire professional career in the equipment industry. Started out with a Kubota tractor right out of college. Worked in a couple of different roles with them. Spent time at their regional office in Columbus and a dealer sales support role. Spent time down in their Grapevine, Texas headquarters in product marketing for their ag and utility line of tractors. From there, kind of moved to another company, worked with JCB for a little bit, and then I spent a couple years with AGCO on the product marketing side for Fendt combines, and most recently was a territory manager with Versatile, covering a very similar territory to what I am now, but kind of, got a little bit recruited into the role I'm in now. When I took a look at the role, what PFG is doing with the Deutz product, what we're bringing to the marketplace now is almost impossible to turn down, just with what we're doing and how we're doing it and what change we're able to affect within our dealer network and how we're doing things a little differently to do business with versus a conventional, manufacturer relationship on the tractor side for dealers. It's really a lot of positive change. We've seen a good effect from that and the dealers we've been able to bring on here in the last few years, and definitely want to be a part of it.
We'll dive into what they're doing differently. Our listeners like hearing that kind of stuff, but when you say that Deutz is doing stuff differently, you've been around the block with manufacturers. What are you talking about? Well,
so one thing, and maybe guys don't know this if they've not been on the dealership side and stuff, and typically the word distributor gets thrown around and maybe a little bit even of a negative connotation and stuff for a lot of the dealer groups in the United States, and we're not doing things like a typical distributor would. A typical distributor would walk into a dealership and throw them down a catalog on the desk and say, here's what we have to order, and that's kind of how it is. Warranty goes through the manufacturer, that kind of stuff. Well, we're doing things a little bit differently than that, as in we're stocking parts. We've set up shop and built a pretty decent sized office and warehouse in Decula, which is on the northeast side of Atlanta there. So we're actually stocking tractors. We're ordering and forecasting ahead from Deutz to get the tractors here in time for when the dealers need them. We're stocking the parts. All the warranty and processing is going through us on the front end. That way the dealers don't have to deal with the manufacturer separately on the back end. They can come to us through parts. We're doing all the service training for their technicians to get them up to speed on working on the product. We're doing all the sales training on our end to get them the salesmen up to speed on the product, the features, the benefits. We're also being very aggressive. We're coming to the market with a high value proposition at a very affordable price, which in today's market, with interest rates being what it is been an absolute lifesaver for us here this year as far as equipment sales have went, because we're still able to be extremely competitive and affordable to the guys that are looking and needing to buy a piece of equipment this year.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of guys that, have been looking at the Deutz tractor line, and they say, well, I'm kind of surprised at how they're priced, given the same. I just before we came into this podcast, I priced out that Warrior 190 to a guy, and he told me that for that horsepower, those features, we were around $100,000 cheaper than a comparable John Deere tractor.
Yeah, and
how is that even possible?
I want to say maybe we don't have as much paint markup and stuff on our product, but
the different tint of green must be on discount somewhere.
Absolutely, but again, some of that's being a little bit aggressive on the pricing, being new to the market, and trying to go out there and earn people's business, because with the dealer network we've been building since we took over the distributorship, previous Deutz distributors in the U.S., they didn't focus on the most important part of the ag equipment business, and that's service and support. And that's something that we've really done different. The product, Deutz tractors have always been a good product, and a lot of the product on the market's fairly decent, but you got to provide good value for the money and great support on the product when you sell it. And that's really what we've done differently than in past times where Deutz has been in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Whenever, whenever you have been at different manufacturers and stuff, and you hear guys talk about distributors, I want it to be clear to the listeners and everyone who PFG is, because you've got Deutz, you've got PFG, you've got Fennig Equipment. Why don't you lay out what the heck PFG is doing?
Yeah, so obviously Deutz Fahr being the manufacturer, SDF is the manufacturer for Deutz Fahr tractors. PFG America is a subsidiary of a pretty large distributor group called Power Farming Group, based out of New Zealand. Started out as a single store dealer organization in New Zealand, is now 20 stores in New Zealand, and they also have a large distributor footprint in Australia, distributing a range of products from obviously Deutz Fahr over there to Great Plains equipment. They do versatile tractors in Australia. They do JCB ag equipment in Australia. Just a variety of brands, McHale balers, that kind of stuff over there. So They've been in the business of selling farm equipment, and I think that helps us out a little bit because we're very customer focused. Because as I mentioned, in New Zealand, they are a dealer group, not a distributor. They are selling directly to the customers and servicing those customers directly, whereas they're set up as a distributor like we are here in the States and Australia. But we still have that focus on the customer, focusing, on the retail side of the business of dealing with that customer and supporting them. And that enables us to behave a little bit differently than other distributors where they represent a lot of the brands, but they don't do any of the service or warranty support and training on the back end as much. Whereas that is one of our main focuses here as we work with our dealers, is making sure they understand how to service the tractor. They're up to speed on how to diagnose the equipment and take care of that customer, and then additionally sell the value of the product we're offering.
Do you think people are aware of the, how do I want to say it? Do you think they are aware of how well built, stout, and reliable a Deutz tractor is?
Widespread knowledge of that, I don't think is quite there yet, but you can see where we've put on very successful dealers here in the the last 5 years that it's starting to become very common, and we're starting to become a common stop when a guy is shopping around for that piece of equipment, because it's all about building the brand recognition. The product quality is there. We just got to keep building the brand and then getting guys comfortable with the product and the support offered.
There's no question Deere has a footprint and a foothold on dealerships and coverage area, market share across the country. When people think of tractors, I mean, I've got kids that are 2 years old that could pick out a John Deere tractor. It's amazing at what age John Deere starts ingraining that into their mind. But when it comes to, they've got the ability to price where they are because of that. But I think when people learn, and it's our job collectively to educate on the reliability and the features offered on a Deutz versus some others. And I think when people see how much better built it is, and even if it was equally as well built, then that's where the price point comes in. That's where the fuel efficiency comes in. And we've got a lot of informational work to do, but it's what we started with Salford a long time ago. Yeah. Salford, there was a time when they got eaten up in the market. I mean, I remember trying to sell a 5-inch vertical tillage tool to a guy, and I didn't have a leg to stand on there at some times. But I've learned what the tool can do. I've seen it with my own eyes, and when we can do that with the customer, I think we can really move some people's operation in a positive direction with a Deutz Fahr tractor.
Yeah, and I'd kind of add a little story here. I was with a farmer in Michigan here this summer, and he's got a mixed fleet. He runs some case equipment. He was running some versatile tractors, John Deere equipment, that kind of stuff. And, you know, he brought up a really good point. He's like, $5 corn doesn't care what color is in the field.
Yeah.
As far as equipment goes.
$10 corn, $7 corn does.
Yeah. So when you start thinking about that kind of mindset as far as your bottom line, where you're getting your return on investment, your cost per acre of operation and stuff, when we can come in with the Deutz product, do the same job just as well, still providing a lot of comfort as far as the operation goes and stuff. You know, we sell a very high-end tractor. I mean, it's a very comfortable machinery to operate in all day. But then you start looking at some of the other intangibles we're providing, like the fuel savings with the Deutz engines, just phenomenal. I mean, we've seen operations, and granted on a different scale, maybe they're a dairy that's running the tractor 20 plus hours a day, and they're seeing $30,000 to $40,000 a year per tractor fuel savings. Well, I mean, that starts to really affect the bottom line, especially if you look at like what a lease payment is on one. That the lease payment's almost paid off just in fuel savings.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's a good point. You know, prices have been very good the last few years, and we know things come and go. And, a Deutz tractor, if you're looking to add, a tractor in lower margins, it can get you a very reliable engine, good tires, and everything you need for a price point that fits.
Yeah.
I know we kind of jumped into the tractor quicker than I wanted. Josh, you said you went to Ohio State. What year?
I graduated in 2016.
Okay. So I think I was there. No. Yeah. Yeah, I would have been there for a year and a half or two when you were there.
Okay. Yeah. So, 2012 to 2016.
Were you in a fraternity at all?
I was in Alpha Gamma Rho. I know.
No, it's all right. They're all good. I was in AGS.
Yeah.
Alpha Gamma Sigma. So, yeah, that's cool. Good to know. And you grew up not too far from here.
Yeah, so I actually grew up, as a crow flies here from the store, not too far, about 45 minutes. I grew up in southeast Auglaize County. I went to high school at Wapak, so
okay,
not terribly far from here at all.
Not far at all. That's awesome. Yeah, and then now today you now live in Northeast Ohio.
Yes, yeah. So I live kind of in between. I live outside of Canal Fulton, so kind of in that Akron Canton area right now. So
okay,
it's not my ideal place to live, but I can't knock it too bad. It's a pretty nice area for the most part. Still some pretty good agriculture, especially you get down towards the Worcester area and stuff.
Right. Growing up or through your professional career, what is it that everyone has their knack? What is it that drives you to tractors? You're a wealth of knowledge on tractors and implements and dealerships. What is it? Did you grow up with that kind of stuff, or?
Well, so I grew up around agriculture and that kind of stuff. Parents didn't farm personally, but I always, it was always in the DNA. Like they grew up on farms, and I always liked being around it and stuff. I studied ag in college, and honestly, kind of lucked into the machinery industry in a little ways. I was going more of the ag retail track. I did an internship in college with crop production services, and I really loved the agronomy side of it. Honestly, it was what I was wanting to do, and obviously prices crashed, and that industry as far as full-time work got kind of tight as far as salary-wise and that kind of stuff, even for guys with college degrees. And I was working full-time doing research for the university most of my senior year, and it kind of got to the point where student loans were looking like they were going to come due, and you're making $13 an hour doing research for the university. You're looking at the bills you got to have coming. You're like, I don't know, this is going to pencil out, and started looking for a full-time job in like the summer after I graduated to go a little bit different route. And Kubota had just approved new like entry-level recent college graduate positions, but they approved it kind of late, where guys were mostly already been kind of slotted in where they were going to go after school, and just got really lucky and got in the business. And I got to work in a really awesome industry where I get to deal not only with farmers and growers, but also the equipment dealerships and that sell and service that product. You still get to stay up on the agronomy side, because that's a lot of the equipment technology is really driven by a lot of the agronomic principles that guys are practicing out in the field. So you you get to actually be in a little bit of everything, being in the equipment industry, and still get to deal with the great people that, you know, we love in the farming community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, you've got a wealth of knowledge on a lot of different things, and when we get to where we're going here on the podcast, we'll dive into that here in a little bit. Cody pulled one off yesterday. He's got, for 3 weeks we've been relying on him to get a tractor sold, and I think finally we paid a guy enough money to walk up to Cody and pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So walk us through it.
Yeah. So this guy's down by like Shelbyville, Indiana. Just kind of a small. He's not even really a hobby farmer, but he's just got some stuff around the house that he wants to do. Has a little bit of property. Needed a tractor to fit that suit, and he had a 54 horse Massey that we actually traded in on it. Went through all the options and everything, and he goes, okay. He goes, does it have this, and this? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it pretty much went from there, and he called me yesterday, and he finally sent me pictures of his trade, because I hadn't seen pictures of his trade. And I shot him some trade numbers, and he called me within, I bet, 10 minutes of me texting him trade numbers, and he goes, okay, well, I need a set of forks with it. Okay, yeah, we'll get you a set of forks, this and that. Well, I need a 5-gallon bucket of hydraulic fluid too. Oh, okay, yep, we'll get you that too. So we're going to get him financed, and he's pulling the trigger on a 75 horse Deutz, first tractor we've ever sold.
Cool.
So, yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I think spending time with Josh today has been good, a great learning tool. And then here the rest of this week, I would like to, I want to shoot some videos on them, get more of the Deutz into the YouTube channel, into the podcast, because there's a lot for us to learn. And as we sell tractors, as we learn the customer's demands, we'll get better and better at knowing the points to really point out, to show them the benefits. But yeah, we got a tractor under our belt, so that feels pretty good.
Yeah.
So but we've got plenty of prospects. We're thinking, silage season here, we can do some demos.
Yeah.
We've got several guys that I think we can get a tractor on their farm.
Got a couple lined up, I think, don't we?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we'll be able to get some hooked to some silage wagons, maybe some pull-type choppers. We need to find some guys that are baling to show them that stop-and-go feature.
I was going to say baling, and then, maybe a guy or two that's running like a mixer or something like that.
Yeah.
That has that outside PTO turn-on feature.
Yeah.
So
that's been good. Overall, we got hit with the luckiest rainstorm I could have ever picked of the year this morning. I know up by Josh's way, they had 3 inches, maybe more in some areas. Here, I think we ended up with just shy of an inch.
Yeah.
But man, it could not have come at a better time. Of course, today's that hot day, supposed to be one of the hotter days of the year. And I thought for sure that was just going to kind of dry up the double crop, start to really turn everything. And I just told a guy yesterday, he was from Southern Indiana. He was asking me how our crops were doing. And I said, well, they're good. They're very good. But I said, I think right now is the turning point to where stuff's going to, everything we've held on this long. We've been mowing grass. I said, after tomorrow, there's no rain in the forecast. I'd say this is where it starts to turn. I said, if I could dream up a rain for tomorrow, boy, it would just really put the cap on a great year. And I woke up this morning, walked outside at probably 5:30, and I saw lightning, and I told myself, heat lightning. Then it kind of got windy and it was kind of cold. I was like, that's weird. I pulled up the radar and I took a screenshot of it. I'll have to show you. Just the entire state of Ohio. Like not an inch in Indiana, not an inch in Michigan. It was just Ohio was getting rain. And it was coming. It was going to rain in like a half hour. And I was like, there's no way. It's going to miss us. It's going to miss us. And I came out here and I there was a crate of weights yet to put on that Salford tool, and I put what was left in the crate, I think 8 weights on there. And then it was my second oldest boy's first day of school today, so I had to hurry up and get home and make them cinnamon rolls and eggs this morning before they went to school. But yeah, the best rain ever. Late August, and it's gonna keep the mowers running. Cody and I planted a food plot the other day for deer.
Yep.
Because when we're not working, we're pretty much hunting all the time.
This is a hunting podcast as well, if you didn't know. So,
I did not. I was not aware.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is also a half hunting podcast too, because that's what interests us.
So we planted a food plot. So now, we got some water on that, and that'll start to grow. And so if you're wondering where we're at, early November, that's where we'll be, sitting over the food plot.
Don't call us. You can text us, but don't call us. We'll be in the tree.
But yeah, so things are going good around here. If you hear some beeping in the background, they're doing some construction here at Wabash. We've talked for a long time about how much construction we have to do before we're ready to transition over in here, and they're starting to do that. So things are starting to take shape. We got the jib cranes sold. I've had several guys text me in the last week about the jib cranes. We got those moved. We have got a lot of equipment here on the lot right now. A lot of a good portion of it's sold. Some of them are trades we just picked up, but there's equipment moving. Our semi cannot keep up right now.
Yeah.
So, but we're just working on getting things in place. Cody and I are going to try to make it out to Farm Progress next week.
Monday. Well, we're going to head out there Monday night.
Yep.
My mom's going to watch my kiddos.
Yep.
My wife's actually heading out to Illinois at the same time. So they have, I think, swine conference or something like that in Bloomington. So they've got that going on, which honestly, I didn't realize this, but Illinois Deer and Beer Fest is this weekend too.
Oh, yeah?
Because I was listening to WCB this morning in Illinois.
But it'll be over.
By the time we got out there.
Right.
But yeah, I wish we had more time than what we knew what to do with to get out there and go to that. But
we'll be at Farm Progress. Technology Days is going on, I think, starting today.
Yep.
Running through Saturday.
Yep. Our Yetter rep, Jeff Worley's there.
Today?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Is he going home tomorrow?
I think he's there today and tomorrow. He was setting up yesterday.
Gotcha. Okay. So a lot going on. The shop is humming right now.
Yeah.
And we're kind of starting to feel a little bit of crunch before fall to get some of these tools pushed out the door. So staying busy on our front. Tune into the newsletter tomorrow morning to stay up to date with everything there. But
if they're listening to this, they've already seen the newsletter.
Potentially, unless they just go to Spotify or Podbean to listen to podcasts.
This is true. This is true.
The link of this will be in the email blast tomorrow morning.
Yes, it will.
So, Josh, do you get the email? I doubt it.
I do not.
Yeah, we'll have to get you added to the list. Every Friday morning, I send out an email blast just highlighting the week in review. What we did in the shop, if we did a on-the-road job, and then this podcast highlights in there.
Okay. So. Yeah. Well, that'll make it easy to keep tabs on you guys. What's going on with fenning equipment? I like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah. Josh, let's dive into a lot of different things in the industry that you're seeing. With whatever it is, tractor markets and stuff like that. As guys are pushing the envelope on technology and stuff and demanding more and more out of dealers, what are you seeing from transitions that dealers are having to make to accompany all of this demand from customers? You get into a lot of different dealerships. What's some good, bad, and ugly that you've seen that guys can do to help push a dealership forward?
As far as technology goes?
Yeah.
I will say some of the transition I've seen on the technology front, obviously with the demand for it in the market, is you have a lot more guys within the dealership that are specialized specifically in the technology side of things, whether you're talking service or selling or setup on the features. Kind of even separating the service of technology from servicing the tractor itself for mechanical failures. So seeing a definite shift in that in a lot of your bigger dealer groups, but even the smaller dealer groups, maybe your single store dealers that are more mom and pop oriented, guys are still, starting to seek out more training and knowledge base of the technology and equipment as far as your guidance stuff goes, section control, those kind of features, because it's becoming a lot more mainstream. I mean, guidance has been mainstream, but a lot of the other precision ag features have become a lot more commonplace in the market, even in smaller growers now. So guys have to get more up to speed and be more in tune with those products in the market and be able to service and support them.
Yeah, and we're seeing that a little bit, like for us, we almost have a few different layers. Granted, we don't really designate it on several different guys, but we could have a salesman who sells an applicator, for example, but we have to call in maybe another guy to talk to that customer about what rate controller fits him best, or what type of nitrogen placement options fit him best. So, but then on the next layer of it is we've got certain guys in the shop who know how to install, test, and service that kind of technology. So we're pretty layered too. We have, I think you need to know the broad spectrum of the equipment, but then, we go through a couple steps to bring the customer what he's really after, because not just one guy can specialize in, from telling the customer what works best to then going to his farm to getting it to operate properly. There's a lot of hands involved to get all that to function properly.
Yeah, and in some dealer groups, I've seen them set up very similar to like a manufacturer. Like a lot of manufacturers and that kind of stuff, they have your territory sales managers that work with the dealer principals on the day-to-day, the business end of things, and then they'll have product specialists that are actually in the field that are experts on that product. And I've seen a lot of dealerships go similar routes to that, where their salesmen are, territory managers within their respective areas of responsibility, depending on the manufacturer, whatever they call it, or key account managers for their guys. And then they have product specialists at the dealership level that are doing all the demos, helping set up that type of equipment. So it's really a kind of a unique time to be in the industry, because the technology has just changed everything we do on a daily basis so much. Yeah.
What are some big changes you've seen in dealerships themselves as far as how they're structured as some of these mergers happen, and some of the smaller folks like ourselves, as more mergers happen, it seems we seem to do a little bit better if we can stay on that cutting edge and still provide a good service. What kind of stuff do you see?
Well, I will say this: certain bigger dealer groups do it better than others, right? Some give you that Walmart fit and finish when you go in there. Like you're not personalized with anybody you're doing business. You're just filling your shopping cart, checking it out on the way, and if you have a problem, you'll try and get somebody out there, hopefully, right?
Right.
And that's where some of the smaller, like smaller entities like you guys yourselves have done really well in the last few years, because guys are more traditionally used to doing business with somebody set up like yourself, where they know the owner, they know the technician that's going to come out them if they have an issue. And it's not just like a revolving door of people coming like that you're not used to. If some of these larger dealer groups, you'll have a different technician every time, maybe even for the same issue if it didn't get fully resolved the first time, and then they start from scratch, and it just adds a little bit of headache sometimes to the customer. But that's kind of the shift we've seen in the industry, is just, there is an economy of scale. Sometimes a dealership with 2 or 3 locations, they can generally pull a little bit more resources to still provide good benefits and stuff to their employees, while also still retaining that small feel for the customer, where it's a lot more personalized service.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's kind of where we're at. Right now we don't do a ton. Our main on the road service would be considered an install. Sure, in season during application time, we'll have to go on the road and maybe fix a valve or a flow meter or a rate controller. But overall, we don't do a ton of on the road service, like a guy calls and I'm broke down. We do get it, but it's very seasonal.
Yeah.
And we're hoping, we're not hoping that people break down with Deutz, but we're hoping that by carrying a tractor line, we can have more of a steady year-round service, you know, to where we kind of almost have a guy dedicated to the Deutz tractor line to, hey, you know, this guy down in Ansonia, he's got 2 tractors that he wants you to go down there and either pick up and bring back here or do some service work on them there. You know, that kind of stuff. Mandatory maintenance in a way.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that helps diversify our shop, because with this new location, we've got the shop and the facility, we've got the employees, and now we've got the product line.
Yeah. And what you'll see with the Deutz product currently, we cater really well to that hay and forage customer. Well, guys doing hay and forage crops generally have livestock. They work year round. They're running sometimes 24/7, 365 days a year. So obviously they still have their peak seasons too that fall along with the row crop guys, but I agree with what you're saying. There would be a little bit more consistent year-round service business.
Yeah. What kind of issues have you seen with tractors? Not only Deutz, but other tractors. What's some common stuff that you see that needs work?
Well, I'll say that I'm sure everybody that's bought a newer piece of equipment in the last few years knows the words emissions pretty well, and that's generally a lot of times what you're seeing. Sometimes it's especially with the DEF fluid stuff. That generally seems to be the bigger sticking point in a lot of new diesels, whether you're talking on-the-road trucking, construction equipment, agricultural equipment. It's kind of an imperfect system as it sits. When you're storing urea, it's so difficult to know. You really have to check the quality a lot of times. And if you have a tractor that sits for several months, well, a lot of times the shelf life in perfect conditions for urea is only 6 months. And that's when it's stored between 50 and 70 degrees. Heat or extreme heat or extreme cold lessens the time that it's actually going to be a viable product for within the tractor. So it really, that causes a lot of issues, especially you look in the Southeast, they have some of the highest DEF issues in the United States because all the heat down there. I mean, it turns a 6-month shelf life into like 3-4 weeks sometimes.
Really?
Especially with some of the more poorer quality DEF. So that's caused some issues. And, when your DEF goes bad, certain things that the United States did with those restrictions, having to have the quality sensor in there for the DEF has actually caused a lot of those concerns. Because when that quality sensor goes bad, you generally end up having to change out a whole DEF header unit, and a lot of manufacturers, it's not as serviceable as a component in the United States as it might be in Europe. So emissions issues have obviously caused some of the concerns and stuff on new equipment. I'd say we're a little bit more fortunate than others, but everybody's still going to have those issues with those products. I'm not sure of the fix to that. I'm sure there's tons of stuff in the pipeline as far as diesel electric hybrids and hydrogen power and all this other things that we've seen popping up in the industry. I don't think a full electric is going to be completely viable for our market, especially on the higher horsepower stuff. I mean, maybe your small subcompact compact tractor guy that's mowing a few acres and doing loader work, and those guys average like 12 to 20 hours or something a year of use. They could probably be more than fine with an electric tractor, but the guys that are running 12 to 20 hours a day in peak season, I don't see electric working for them. So probably going to need to eventually have a long-term solution to get away from some of the emissions stuff that we're seeing today. And I think that's going to be some type of alternative fuel source, or maybe that hybrid solution, or I don't know, but there's probably someone smarter than me sitting in a room right now staring at a computer drawing designs up to it. So hopefully we'll see it before too long. But it's one of those things that you also got to think about the back end of the infrastructure supporting it and stuff. Like the hydrogen, for example, that's an imperfect solution. The hydrogen's not readily available everywhere right now like diesel fluid is. So.
Right. Yeah, diesel's just been around for so long. It's easy to get a hold of and easy to store, and yeah. But other types of issues, transmissions or engines. I mean, not only on Deutz, like I said, but in general, what's a lot of other things?
Well, I'll say, drivetrain components, Deutz tractor wise, we've been very fortunate as far as our product. We don't see hardly any failures. I mean, everything's at some point a little bit man-made, so occasionally you'll have a warranty claim here or there on something. Generally, it goes back to a manufacturing issue and stuff. one nice thing with the Deutz tractors and stuff on the higher horsepower side, everything's in separate hydraulic reservoirs. What you'll see on some other manufacturers, maybe with transmission failures, is when they're pulling their hydraulic fluid for the transmission out of the same reservoir for their implement hydraulics. A lot of implements can cause dirt contamination in your hydraulic fluid as you're hooking into your tractor, and that those particulates and that kind of stuff can get into the transmission and cause pretty catastrophic failures. Equipment wise, I mean, it's priced how it is unfortunately today, and a lot of that's because the components that build these tractors have gone up. Transmission's not cheap to replace, so anything you can do on the front end like we've done with having those separate hydraulic reservoirs that can save the customer downtime in the future and a costly expense is crucial up at the front, at the beginning.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, of course, I didn't know how big of a deal it was to have the separate reservoirs, and I was just talking to these guys that came up from Troy today, and they were impressed by that. They were like, yeah, you can definitely dirty up a lot of stuff with all the different implements that you hook to, and that's a pretty sweet feature. But yeah, I think as we move forward and learn more with the Deutz tractor line, I plan to, at the Farm Science Review, maybe spend some time down at their booth learning.
For sure.
We had the ride and drive event here back in July, and then I went down to the Full Tag one, and that's where I met you, I think, for the first time. Yep. I went down there to learn a little bit more, and drove some tractors and got some hands-on work down there. I'm very impressed with the knowledge and the support. I've said it many times, we're not going to sell anything that we don't feel like someone's got our back. Sure. That is so important to us. If I can't pick up the phone and within a minute get someone who can at least point me in the right direction, not someone who knows the answer, just someone who can tell me where to find it, that's huge.
Yeah.
Just sure. That we have dealt and currently do deal with some manufacturers who you feel like you're yelling through a megaphone to try and reach them, and there's no response on the other end. It's like, how are you even in business?
Right.
So you get that nice down home feel with PFG. We've met a lot of the whether it's service or support, warranty, sales, marketing people, with them, whether it was down at Fultz or up here and in between. It's exciting to be able to find a product that carries the same niche as our other products do.
Yeah. No, and I know I've probably said it, I don't know, half a dozen times already. There's somebody making tally marks at home, but service and support is the critical forefront of what we're trying to push here with our distribution in the United States. And like you mentioned, being easy to do business with, not just on your guys' end for your customers, but us being easier to do business with makes it easier to take care of your customers. And that's why we really focus on that from our end on supporting you guys as a dealer.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think we're probably getting close to time here, and we've got
up on 40 minutes here.
Yeah,
so.
We've got. I'm sure Josh has got things to do. You got a little drive ahead of you.
Just a little one, no big deal.
Yeah. So, any big plans for the weekend?
Not too much. My fiance will be out of town. She's having a girls' weekend, and so I'm going to go help one of my old fraternity brothers. He's moving into a new house, and I'm like, well, I don't have anything better going on this weekend if you need any help. And he unfortunately accepted that, so I'll be doing that this weekend, but nothing too exciting.
Sure. That's good. Awesome. Okay. Well, hopefully everyone survives the heat today, and look for this podcast, and check out our YouTube channel. We've got I just uploaded a pretty exciting video, in my opinion anyways, on my double crop soybeans, some cool things that we've seen using the Salford tool. So be sure to check out that video. It's a long one, 15 minutes, which in today's age is like way too long for anyone to watch anything. It's like going to the theater and watching a 4-hour movie.
Yeah.
But try to hang in there, because at like minute 10 there's some pretty cool stuff we talk about. So thanks for tuning in. Josh, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, guys.
And we'll be doing more of them for sure.
Definitely.
So, all right, thanks guys.
Yep, thank you.